Good morning, everyone. Today is December 19th, 2022. It's 10 a.m. and you are attending a public hearing at the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission on some proposed rules in Chapter 31 Administration, a new rule on the purchase of alcoholic beverages for a temporary event, amendments to a rule to address insufficient funds, and amended Chapter 50, which is in regards to seller, server, and delivery driver training. Today's a public hearing, which means that we'll do our usual process. First, in the first portion of the meeting, we'll just discuss and have an informal conversation. If you have questions or comments that you'd like to raise, and I'll be able to answer them to the best of my ability. Then the second portion, I will open up the formal comment period, and that is when we will receive formal comments, which I will not be able to respond to today, but to which I will respond in writing in the Texas Register, and when and if the rules are finally adopted. With that said, let's go ahead and get started with the informal portion of the meeting. And I'm sorry, I neglected to introduce myself. My name is Shana Horton. I am the rules attorney for the TABC. We'll start with new and amended Chapter 31 administration. This was part of our 4-year cycle of rule review. We wanted to get through all of the Chapter 31 rules. One thing we did do was to combine a couple of rules on complaints, submission and processing into one rule. And we added a family leave pool rule as required by the legislature. And then we also have now required language on signage, and that we are proposing would not go into effect until September of 2023 to allow some time for folks to prepare for that and have those signs made if their signs don't currently comply with the exact language. And that's just to avoid any problems with folks changing the language in a way that doesn't really express what we wanted to on those signs. So let's open up the floor to you all. If you have any informal questions or comments, anything you'd like to discuss with respect to any of the new and amended rules in Chapter 31 administration, the floor is yours. Not seeing any hands. If you're having any trouble, you're welcome to also type into the messages, the chat function. I can see that as well, and I can read aloud if you have questions there. I am not seeing any hands raised. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Rule 3381. This is a new rule that essentially just clarifies that if you are a mixed beverage permit holder and you're holding an event at a temporary location in a county that is not the county of your primary license, then you are welcome to purchase the alcohol for that event in either your home county or the county where the event is held. That's pretty straightforward. Are there any comments or questions about that rule? Okay, excellent. We'll move on then to amended Rule 33.55. So this is in response to an issue we've had since Ames came online. Some of our license and permit applications have gotten through the approval system on Ames prior to the form of payment clearing at the comptroller's office, and we've had a few returned for insufficient funds. And essentially what this rule does is clarify that if your check bounces, you have not fulfilled the license permit application requirements, and you'll need to cure that defect. And if you don't, you do not have a permit. So essentially what we're calling conditional. It's a conditional permit until those funds are paid. That's a very small group of folks that's going to impact. It's just those that are paying by a method other that has the ability to essentially bounce. Does anyone have any questions or comments about that amendment? Hopefully most folks are paying through Ames, so we don't have that problem very often. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands on this one. Okay, we'll get to the big one. Amended chapter 50, alcoholic beverage seller, server, and delivery driver training. Again, we needed to go through this on the 4-year cycle, but we also have some new technology coming on, moving out of the legacy technology, and so needed to update this chapter to allow for new technology. And really just some updating to the way things are actually running these days. Are there any questions or comments about any part of the amendments to chapter 50, alcoholic beverage seller, server, and delivery driver training? Again, this is an informal portion, so we're just having a conversation at this point. Okay, not seeing any hands. All right. Well, in that case, we will go ahead and open at this time. It's now 10:08 a.m. on December 19th, 2022. I am now opening the formal comment period for the new and amended rules on our agenda today. Chapter 31, new rule 3381, amended rule 3355, and amended chapter 50. We will begin with chapter 31, administration. If you have any formal comments that you would like to make, please unmute yourself, state your name, who you represent for the record, and then make your comment or ask your question. Again, I will not be able to respond to you right now, but I will respond to these comments and questions in writing later. Does anyone have any formal comments or questions regarding any of the changes or new rules in chapter 31, administration? Okay. Are there any formal comments on new rule 3381, purchase of alcoholic beverages for a temporary event? All right, wouldn't expect any on that. Amended rule 3355, insufficient funds amendment. Are there any formal comments or questions regarding amended rule 3355? Okay, no hands raised, no unmutes. Finally, are there any formal comments on any of the amended rules in chapter 50, alcoholic beverage seller, server, and delivery driver training? Please just unmute yourself and state your name for the record and make your comment. Looks like maybe everyone was just here to see what everyone else had to say today. So I'm not seeing any hands or unmutes on my screen. Okay, this was a short meeting, so one last chance, speak now or forever hold your peace on the rules on our agenda today. If you have any formal public comments, now is the time. We are also still accepting written comments at this time. Anyone going once? Going twice? Okay, looks like this is going to be one of those meetings. So thank you all for coming, and have a lovely holiday. And I'm off to my daughter's school party. Thank you.